So, going into Halloween weekend, we decided to do 2 matches, both shot entirely with PCC. And there's a bit of a comparison of these 2 PCCs. Kind of a half-ass versus match, which are always kind of bullshit, because inherently people doing them aren't the same. They don't have the same skill level, circumstances, and events that happen during the match. Not really fair, but still gives us a good comparison for how these 2 compare. Now, this is a 9mm AR, based on a KP-9 and a bunch of other parts. That is a kel-tec Sub-2000. Not going to do a lot of details about Sub-2000. It is what it is. People know what it is. They either already hate it or think it's cool or silly or whatever. I mean, I have a pointless gold muzzle brake on there. I think it fits the vibe. It's an extremely simple gun. It only weighs 4 pounds. You can't fold it if the optic is there on top of it. That's why there's a quick release, so I can fold it. But yeah, that thing is what it is. On the other hand, this is a very nice PCC. That's the KP-9 polymer monolithic lower. Takes Glock mags. All the internals on the lower are all from KE, which is basically their PCC kit, with the PCC weight, buffer, spring, has the ambi safety, ambi mag release, and SLT1 trigger. The upper, I think no 2 parts on the upper are from the same manufacturer. We have the Leadstar Arms carbon fiber handguard. We have the Kaw Valley bolt in there, which is heavier than the average because 9mm AR bolts are not consistent. There's not a standard to them, really. And each one is a little bit different, and this is on the heavier end, which works well for making a relatively soft recoiling rifle. That's an NBS billet upper, which is fine. It's relatively light. A lot of billet uppers are kind of chonky, and this one is not. And we have a Faxon PCC barrel. This one has a compensator that's built into it, which is, say, it is one piece with the barrel, not pin and weld. It's all just cut out of a single piece of steel. Got another Romeo 5 up on top, which, of course, have a different Romeo 5 on there. They're both just your standard basic red dots, and they work fine. Some random no-name ambi charging handle on there. Versus the hilarious pseudo-Sten tube directly into the bolt charging handle that's on the Sub2K. But you can slap it on the Sub2K, which is always a lot of fun. Overall, our new toy, which is actually Tactical Sloth's, not mine, but I get to play with it. It worked great. Very low recoil, more accurate. That is a phenomenally good trigger, the SLT1. But you can see the results in all our match footage and how they both worked for us. Okay, first stage, looking at 2-gun match. October 23. It's our PCC versus match. Basically the cheapest possible PCC, Sub2K, versus a very nice 9mm AR. Now this stage, start out with 6 rifle positions, where you go and fire 1 shot each on each of these paper targets. It's a limited round count stage. And you move up to the next row. 1 shot each on each of the paper targets. And once again, you only get one shot for each of these. In order to have scoring, you'd have 3 hits on each of the paper targets. Wait, no. That's 6 hits on each of the paper targets, which I do get. Then you go up to the final row, up the very front. This would be the pistol section. If you're using PCC, there is a required mandatory reload, because you only have 18 rounds. And this would be with pistol. You take as many shots as you need on the small round static steels. 3 hits from each position. Once again, this is one of those things where fundamentally easier on PCC. Those are not challenging rifle shots for the PCC.
Hit. KP-9.67. Shoot it right. Right. Stand by.
Now here is Tactical Sloth using our KP-9 base 9mm AR. Still working on some of her issues with being left-handed. Saw her have to switch her feet there. And getting it properly braced on the shoulder. This is tuned to be very low recoil, but that means that if you're not holding it properly, you can induce some malfunction. So I think in this particular case, this malfunction was induced by her right hand being too close to the ejection port and blocking proper ejection.
Hold it tight against your shoulder.
But other than that one induced malfunction, she breezes right through all this.
Yeah, you short on ammo because of what happened.
Yeah.
Just drop it and proceed to the pistol targets.
Yep.
Now this next stage, you start out with having to move a kettlebell.
Are you ready?
You pick up your rifle from the ground. This would be a rifle-only stage, but it's just a bunch of close-range papers. There's not really any advantage to a rifle over a PCC on this stage. Each paper needs 2 hits to be neutralized. At the very end, there's a few targets that require an additional headshot. You're not required to moving through this, but you can shoot this while moving if you're a real fast boy. I'm chugging along with the Sub2K. Now, it's not terrible. Nothing's fundamentally wrong. It runs well. The total number of hits do basically require reload right here. But every shot, I'm probably a bit slower than I would have been with the 9mm AR, because Sub2K trigger is pretty bad. Be very careful to get accurate shots with it. And it also has more recoil.
Chamber down.
As Tactical Sloth, doing the same thing. This is a very self-explanatory stage. Shoot all the paper targets. And then finish with 3 headshots on the ones you already shot while crossing over.
Tight against the shoulder. Tight against the shoulder. shots. Top of the head. Time for a new magazine.
Now this is the stage where the PCC is a significant disadvantage. There is a bit of an accuracy loss,
right?
And one of the first targets are some, I think, mini IPSCs. All targets are at 100 yards. Mini IPSCs, not too hard with 9mm PCC. There's these stack of spools here, making 4 shooting positions down the side. There are 3 targets down 100 yards, static. We need to get those from each of those 4 spots. And then there's a spinner at 100 yards. You can do these in whatever order you want. Most people put the spinner at the end because the spinner was very hard.
Across.
You can see Tactical Sloth there, having no problem getting statics. They're not going to get the spinner. No one using a PCC at this event got the spinner. Only 8 people using rifles out of nearly 60 people managed to spin the spinner. It was, you can barely see it. I basically couldn't see the bottom plate of the spinner at all. It just blends into the background. It's smaller than the static steel. Without magnification, it would be basically impossible for me at least. Maybe some people can manage it, not me. And Tactical Sloth there is going to get to the spinner section and timeout, attempting to get the spinner. They hit it sometimes, but just can't see it well enough to tell what direction it's moving. And it's just a pretty damn small target.
You don't need to run it.
Millimeter.
You still had it around it
at 100 yards.
You'll find the same, like literally it's the same stuff because they would just piggyback off the contracts. But you can find it from, and because it's marked Italian, it's significant. They have a really cool LBD 88, like they have a pouch right here. 6 color that have made the net of using it. They're like right now. They're like what? $35? 25. Oh, even better. Sportsman, the brand. Time. I've been spending money lately, so I'm like, lucky to keep it with me. Make ready. Yeah, chambered. Yeah. Right? Okay. That's it. Could be a IDF. How about IDFs? Oh yeah, I don't. Straight up. There we go. Okay. All right. Sure. Are you ready? Ready. Stand by.
Now, the static steel, Sub2K isn't really holding me back that much. It's accurate enough, but every trigger press does take a bit longer than it would with a good trigger. And none of these require double taps, so the added recoil isn't really that big of an issue either. So this thing does get the job done for a $300 to $400 gun versus the much more expensive, very nice 9mm AR. But after getting each of these static steels, 3 hits, 1, 2, 3 at those 3 targets, I get the spinner and just, I hit it a few times, no idea where it's moving, can barely see it at all, only have the vaguest idea. I think part of the time I literally was aiming at the wrong spot because it just blends right into the back. Yeah, basically impossible for me.
Sit on the bottom one because you know you have hits on it.
Yeah. It's at 100 yards. You gotta time it.
I think you might be slightly high. There you go. Still high, I think. Oh, God. There you go. That's time.
Now this stage, this is an example of a stage that's
Lost your
massively
You got 2 more
easier for
magazines, don't
PCC
worry
versus
about it.
pistol.
Just grab another magazine.
What
out.
this is, there's a bunch of paper targets out there. Every steel target is a no-shoot. They are placed at weird, awkward locations behind steel targets, but far worse than that, there's a bunch of steel targets behind many of these. So you have to figure out where the steel target is. In some cases, from your shooting position, there is a small, round, static steel completely obscured by the paper target. You have to figure out where it is, and make sure you aim at the part of the paper target that won't hit the steel. And all the top scorers on this stage were PCC, because that sort of precision is just really hard with a pistol. And dude, that's just an ocean of steel targets out there. It's so easy to hit them.
Oh, yeah, she's gonna need one of them. I thought there was only one down there.
Oh yeah, and those were some magazines that got dropped during the run. So they had to go grab one of those. Other than magazines and a little bit of tactical yard sale, they were fine through this. Everything worked perfectly. Chugged right along.
I've seen that happen. At 2020, when the guys had dressed up as like Imperial Guardsmen from Warhammer, had painted a star. First stage running.
Yeah.
And instantly scored.
All right.
The what?
Yeah, 5 or 6, I think.
I thought it was like 3.
I think I'm still 3 down. And I'm not.
Yeah, I think that.
It's funny you guys talk about the can. So like last match I shot out here, stage 2, I came up as number 1 on. I said, "There's no fucking way." Like, somebody
Now, you can see me doing a whole bunch of looking around. I'll stop in between targets and like crane my head around, change my position, because some of these steel are actually pretty well hidden. Like that
I saw you start tapping.
paper target that's kind of high right there, like dead center from the natural shooting position, right behind it is a steel plate. So, other than being careful, pretty easy to do this stage with PCC.
Sorry.
That's it.
Finish. Show clear.